Welcome back, allies. AlliedGame is here with tech
A
tips.
boy named Blitzcake.
With a boy named Blitzcake. He's going to be my co-host for this podcast that we're going to be talking about the new Ryzen 3000 series and just all the awesome stuff that's coming up with them. Now, I don't really have a name for this tech tips series yet because I'm not Linus Tech Tips. I'm not Allied the Tip Master. I'll let y'all decide in the comments down below. Okay?
So just comment down what you think the name should be in the comment section, and we will pick our name that we think is our favorite.
Yep.
So you could be responsible for the title.
You can. So, let's get right into the video, though. So, they've come up with the Ryzen 3000 series.
And they did debut it at CES a little bit and showed the performance of it compared to the 9900K,
which blew it away.
Yeah, like half the power and like slightly more performance. So just absolute butt kicking in that regard.
100%.
Yeah, and that like the leaked specs of Ryzen 3000, that apparently was the Ryzen 5 3600X.
Yeah, this is leaked. By the way, we did get this from Adore TV. He did leak this. We just thought we might talk about it and put our own perspective into it, our own 2 cents. So he will be down in the description down below. He is the one who leaked this. Now, he isn't always right, but majority of the time he is. So this isn't 100%.
Highly credible.
Yeah.
I guess that's the best way to say it. He made a video on this already talking about it because he has a lot of, I guess, inside knowledge on that kind of stuff.
He has an inside man.
He does. Several apparently. And he's highly credible. I personally trust a lot of what he says. He's pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
And he did leak all of this, so that credit to him.
Credit to him. So let's go ahead and start talking about the Ryzen 3 series. Now, before the Ryzen 3, it was like the 2200 and stuff like that, but now we have the Ryzen 3 3000 series.
Yes.
So this is pretty exciting.
Yeah, the lowest end chip is the Ryzen 3 3300, 6 cores, 12 threads, which, like, that already is just insane. Like, before,
that is amazing.
Really about it, yeah, at the time of Ryzen's release, to my knowledge, it was around the time when the 7700K was the flagship. It might have been the 8600 or 8700K, but the lowest end chip on that was 4 cores, 8 threads. No, 4 cores, 4 threads, because it didn't have hyperthreading with the lowest end Ryzen 3. Now we have a Ryzen 3 with 6 cores and hyperthreading.
Yeah, like what I just recently bought for a streaming PC. I actually returned it because I'm going to be saving up for some of this. I'll talk about that later. I returned the Ryzen 5 2200 because it cost me $150, while all of the Ryzen 3 6-core 12-thread series is all under $150.
Yeah, which is insane. Like, as you can see, the base clock and the boost clock, 3.2 to 4 gigahertz, which is like pretty impressive for a low end chip like that. Like, obviously nothing too crazy. Like,
but for $100 though.
Yeah, that's $100. 4 cores, 12 threads.
Can you even get an Intel i3 for that much right now?
I don't think so. I think the lowest is like $150 for an i3.
And this is if you spend the extra $30, which we're gonna go ahead and move on to the Ryzen 3 3300X. You get the same 6 cores, same 12 threads, but your base clock is now 3.5, and your boost clock is 4.3. Now,
Which
it isn't
pretty impressive, yeah.
Yeah, it's not an amazing improvement, but it's definitely amazing for $130.
Yeah, like 3.5 gigahertz, 4.3 boost at 6 cores, 12 threads.
For $150. My Ryzen 3 2200.
130.
Yeah, 130. The Ryzen 5 2200, which I think was either 4 or 6 cores. So that means it either had 8 or math.
Which chip do you say that you had?
The Ryzen 2200.
2200? You mean 2600?
Yeah, 2600. My bad.
So that would be 6 cores, 12 threads, and
It was
I'm just off the top of my head. I can go and check real quick. Um,
it was
the
around
the
3.3 gigahertz around there.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna bring up. So the 2600 is 3.4 gigahertz base, 3.9 gigahertz boost.
Yeah, and that cost me $150. While the base, their lowest power Ryzen 3 3300 is max 4 gigahertz and
which
only
is
$100.
100, yeah, which is 100 megahertz higher than the 2600. So their lowest spec chip already beats the 2600 in terms of
Just raw power.
boost frequency, and has the same number of cores and threads
And it's
for
cheaper.
literally $100.
Yeah.
Like a very cheap chip that is already quite powerful. The 2600 is an impressive chip,
Oh,
especially
without
since
a
you
doubt.
can overclock it quite a bit. And obviously you'll be able to overclock the 3300 as well, which just like once you consider that, because all of AMD's chips as of now are overclockable. None of them are locked down, so you can overclock them all.
Yeah.
If you can overclock the Ryzen 3 3300, then that's going to be one speedy little chip for only $100.
Yeah, for $100, that's a wild improvement from what we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Now, let's go ahead and I'm going to let you explain the Ryzen 3 3300G.
Yeah, so the whole idea behind that is, you have Intel's chips with integrated graphics. AMD has always had their own lineup of chips specifically made to have integrated graphics into them instead of just having them all have that capability. So the Ryzen 3300G is slightly slower, as you can see, than the 3300, but it is equipped with 15 compute units, which basically it has decent integrated graphics. I don't know exactly how it relates to like performance with the AMD compute unit system, but like integrated graphics low end chip, that's like we can see how it performs when it actually comes out.
Yeah, all this has not come out yet.
That's all pretty. That's
yeah, for the price
standard for
wise,
AMD.
it's also only $130. So that could, if it's a good integrated graphics right there, for $130, you could almost have a full gaming PC right there.
Yeah,
all you need is
which
RAM,
AMD's
motherboard, and power supply at that point.
Yeah, the setup that AMD already has, like their current APUs that they have, are already quite good for like the price and the speed that they have.
Yeah.
So if the cores and speed of these new chips, if the graphics sector of these chips is even slightly the same in terms of like increasing of core counts and clock speeds, then this is going to be a just wonderful little chip right here.
Yeah.
In terms of like obviously it's not going to be any 1080 Ti, 2080 Ti, of course.
Yeah,
not,
it's probably going to be more around a low end 1050.
Yeah, but even then,
for the price,
like, or at least like in terms of like the tier, it's going to be that same tier.
Yeah.
But $130 for what you can see here is pretty.
It's
nice.
just amazing. So let's go ahead and go on to the 3600 series, their Ryzen 5 3600. Okay, I'm just gonna point this out now. We're gonna talk about this in a hot second. But I have a Threadripper 1900X. That is 8 core, 16 threads, at a base of I think it was 3.8 gigahertz. I have mine overclocked to 4.2. So right now, the Ryzen 5 3600 base is 8 cores, 16 threads, 3.6 gigahertz. That's their base. Mine was 3.8. But their boost clock, their max is 4.4. And it cost $180. My Threadripper at the time was $400, 8 cores, 16 threads. and it is performing right now worse than their Ryzen 5 3600 at their max boost clock.
Yeah,
and
like
it's
just
$200
assuming,
cheaper. Yeah.
yeah, obviously, like it's either they're all Ryzen chips. Like one of like it's all gonna work kind of the same, you know, in terms of IPC. Like it's a new architecture, so it's going to like probably have more instructions per clock than the old architecture, obviously.
Oh yeah.
So even then, like just looking at this, it was rumored that the chip, and I'm pretty sure like it was kind of confirmed because a bunch of people were confirmed, like were saying that this was true. Like I think especially on Twitter, people were talking about it a lot. The Ryzen 5 3600 was the chip that they were using up on stage at CES against the 9900K, and apparently they increased the clock speed on the base and boost clock by 100 megahertz, which makes it equal to the 2700X, because the 2700X is 3.7 gigahertz base, which
is what you have right now, right?
Yeah, I have the 2700X.
Yeah.
And then the turbo frequency of the 2700X is 4.3, and the boost clock on this is 4.4.
So right now, this $180 chip
Ryzen
is
5.
out. Yeah, this Ryzen 5 3600, this $180 chip is outperforming Ryzen 7's top chip, 2700X.
Yeah, 2700X, which is right now you can get it. I'm just looking at PC Part Picker right here. Currently, as of time of recording, $308.
So what is that? 308. That's give or take $120 difference for the exact same thing. Actually, better. No.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, probably IPC increase, which means more performance. For those of you who don't know, IPC, or instructions per clock, basically just relates to the amount of actions that a processor can take every clock cycle.
Yeah. So I'll let you explain the Ryzen 5 3600X.
Okay, so right here we can see same number of cores, same number of threads. The base clock gets bumped up to 4 gigahertz.
Oh my lord!
That's pretty sick. Again, better than the 2700X.
And the thread ripper.
Can we just take a second to think about that?
Yeah, that's a base clock.
A Ryzen 5 almost has a better base clock than the 2700X's boost clock.
That's almost as good as my Threadripper 1900X. The Threadripper was 2018 flagship. Now, this is even the flagship. This is halfway through the tier.
Yeah,
it's beating last year's.
This is insanity. That's what this is.
Yeah,
4.0 gigahertz base clock.
Don't even get us started on the boost clock.
Yeah, that's just
4.8.
4.0 for 4.8 gigahertz boost.
And if you have a custom loop, you could probably get it up to 5 if you have a really good.
You wouldn't even need to get it up to I would imagine that we can look at what the current Ryzen setup is. I have on the on my computer, I have a liquid cooler on mine, and my processor stays at 60 degrees Celsius, pretty steadily.
And then I have a bent chip. I also have a water cooler, but mine stays at 16 degrees Celsius because I got a really lucky chip.
I'm still pretty sure that's a glitch, but Allied for something's up with Allied.
I restarted my PC. I retried. I redid the BIOS. I got me a new hard drive to make sure it wasn't something with that. I got me. I've retested it multiple times.
Allied's Threadripper somehow stays at 16 degrees Celsius, and I have no idea
how that happens. I put my hand next to it constantly to see if my computer, because you feel with your fans pushing out heat, and it just feels like cold air. I feel like I have a personal air conditioner next to me sometimes.
Oh my god! But either way, you can easily overclock this thing to 5 gigahertz if the boost clock is already 4.8. As long as you don't get super unlucky and get a chip that just does not want to overclock at all.
Which does happen, and then sometimes you get ones like mine, they're like, please overclock me more.
Yeah. the boost clock is already 4.8. It isn't too unreasonable to see this thing getting to 5 gigahertz.
Now let's real quick talk about the price too.
Yeah, $230
for something that is outperforming everything Ryzen has. Even I would like to say this because of it being at 5 gigahertz. We're just gonna assume everyone that wants to is gonna boost this to 5 gigahertz because I know I will.
It's pretty easy to overclock processors nowadays. It's literally just like go into your BIOS. You press delete when you're starting your computer, and then you type in 5. When you're starting up your computer, it isn't that difficult. If you want to get more performance, you can just look up a YouTube video on how to do it. It's fairly simple.
Without a doubt.
Let's assume that like you can overclock this to 5 gigahertz. That's already better than the 2700X. Like obviously the base and boost are already better, but like that's getting into like Jesus, this is a Ryzen 5 outperforming the 2700X.
Yeah, once again, this is mid-tier right
by
now.
a lot. Yeah.
This is the mid-tier, and it's outperforming this. This is just insanity to a new level.
Yeah, and then there's the Ryzen 5 3600G,
which is the integrated graphics version.
The same stuff, 8 cores, 16 threads. It's the integrated graphics version.
But now it's 20.
Yeah, but like as you can see, it is the same base and boost clock of the 3300. So these are probably going to be pretty easy chips to make, just like
and for the price, $200.
Yeah. $200 for 20 compute units,
It's the equivalent of getting a Ryzen 7 2700X right there. The Ryzen 5 3600G is just getting that, and then you get integrated graphics on top of it.
Well, it's not. It's a little bit worse. 'Cause it's like 0.4 gigahertz slower.
Oh, it is? Rip.
Yeah, 3.6, 4.4, and then 3.2, 4.0. Okay. So it's equal to the 3300.
So I don't think most people will buy that chip.
And yeah, honestly, well, I don't know anyone that buys the integrated graphics versions.
Was it $30 more? You get 0.8 more megahertz, or you get 8,000?
Because like spending $100 on a GPU and $100 on a CPU versus just spending $200 on it all together. You only have to buy one cooler.
I mean,
that's kind of a shitty way to say that.
Well, this is how I say it.
For GPU
if you're gonna buy the Ryzen 5 36G, it's $200 for integrated graphics. For $30 more, without the integrated graphics, you get a 0.8 gigahertz increase. That is almost 1 gigahertz increase for $30. We were talking about how it was only a 0.3 with the Ryzen 3 3300 and 3300X, but this is 0.8. At that point, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like you could probably buy a used one.
People buy stuff on like... People buy stuff on their ability to afford it. So if you can afford to spend, like however much on your computer, like let's say you can spend like $800, you could definitely like buy a 3600X, or like let's say maybe you don't want to spend so much on your CPU because you're just gonna like be playing games and you don't really need like it certainly doesn't hurt, but most games can't take advantage of 8 cores right now as much as other programs. So like you get the 3300X, that's $130, and then you still have a good $200 to spend on your graphics card. And then like everything else on your computer, you use the rest of the $400 on like however you want to do it,
Definitely.
Whatever your setup, whatever you want your setup to be, like
definitely.
People will go for whatever processor they can afford. So if you can afford to spend $200 on your CPU in your build, then you will.
Exactly. Because I mean, no one's going to buy something they don't have money for. I'd say that, but that's why credit cards were invented.
And then, like, if you do have the money for something, you're probably going to buy it if you're in the market for that thing.
It just kind of also depends on what you're looking for. Gaming for performance or for video encoding. But before we
Yeah,
get
like if you're
talking
streaming, you
about
wanna
that too
buy
much,
higher.
we're going to talk about that a little bit further on. Let's go ahead and just move on to the Ryzen 7 series. Whew.
Yeah, this stuff right here gives me chills.
Yeah, here, I'll explain the first one. I'll let you explain the next one here. So,
Okay.
the Ryzen 7 3700 reminds me of the 2700. Sounds nice, right? You thought. 12 cores, 24 threads. That right there is the Ryzen Threadripper 1920X right there. The 1920X is what? A base of 3
Something like
gigahertz? No.
No, so 1920X is 3.5 gigahertz base
And what's
with
this
a
boost?
4 gigahertz turbo. So
Okay. And then this one here,
literally just like so much
just base
faster.
clock. Let's just do base clock here. 12 cores, 24 threads, 3.8 gigahertz base clock. Then a boost clock,
Which can I-
4.6.
like 3.8 base, that's higher than the 2700X already.
Yeah.
And it has 4 more cores.
And it's the exact same price. Actually, no, it's $20 cheaper.
Yeah, then
How much is the 1920X? From
1920X right now it's $420.
so $120 cheaper for outstanding performance. Yeah.
Like
I
That's-
need to explain it even anymore. Like you
Yeah,
see
like-
the graph here, the price to performance, you can't beat it. You can try.
Yeah.
Intel's gonna try beating this, but Intel has always
Yeah.
been overpriced for what they're giving you. And Ryzen just came out with something that is underpriced, in my opinion. I don't know how they're making money right now. Like,
Well, the thing is, the chip itself like doesn't it'll probably cost like $50-$60 to produce. I wouldn't know completely
Yeah.
off the top of my head. You know, like because you buy it like a wafer of silicon,
and
and then you take the chips that you can get off of that, and you make a bunch of processors.
yeah,
So like, however much it
You
costs,
buy it in bulk,
The
and
reason why
then-
this costs $300 is because they have to pay the guy that's like putting
Selling
it all together,
it, putting it
and
together.
and whoever you buy it from, like Newegg.
Yeah, it's
when
a
you buy it,
manufacturing
they're gonna want-
process.
they're gonna want some. They're gonna have to like putting.
it's
the
a lot
little
more than
heat spreader
just a
on it.
CPU.
Yeah, but like
No.
Ryzen 7 3700
Let's talk
is
about
already
this.
better than the 3700X. by,
Let's talk
like,
about
a
the
good-
$30 counterpart, the $330 counterpart. Here, I'll let you explain
Yeah.
this one.
So 3700X. This is what gets me excited. When I see a part like this,
Oh,
like that's when I start to get all tingly, you know?
especially for this
of
price
course.
point,
24 threads.
right there.
That's already insane. That's like just oh my
better
god. I'm
than
so
the
happy.
Threadrippers
You know,
of
just-
2018.
Yeah, just like when we talked about the 3700. Still has the 12 cores, 24 threads. Of course it does.
Yep.
And then the base clock of this chip is 100 megahertz less than the boost clock of the 2700X. And then the boost clock of this chip is 5 gigahertz. And
That
that's
is
just- that just makes me
insane.
so happy.
If I
Because
remember correctly,
before Ryzen had problems hitting 5 gigahertz, at least
Yeah.
like the main chips. I think Threadripper you could do.
Threadripper used to
but-
be able to, but even then it was
Yeah.
difficult because it was such a large chip. The Threadripper.
Yeah,
Let's
they
real quick
run
talk about
hot,
this
they
too.
run
Ryzen 3000 series, they're running off of the AM4 socket. They're smaller than a Threadripper. They're running faster
at
and
least-
have
at
more
least-
cores.
They're rumored to run on AM4. I think for like the higher end chips, like the Ryzen 9s, I think they're supposed to be on AM4 Plus is what people are saying.
Which is
but let's
Threadrippers,
get into
right?
that later. AM4 Plus, no, because Threadripper was its own socket.
Okay. See, I have a Threadripper, and I'm really wanting to.
TR4 was
Get
was
this.
Threadripper.
Okay. Here, I'll let you finish the
let's continue with the
3700X.
Ryzen 7 3700X.
Yeah.
So, 12 cores, 24 threads at 5 gigahertz for $330.
So that's
Like,
the same price.
That's the
As a
same price as the
2700X.
2700X, but it's 12 cores.
So that's
at
4 more
5
cores.
Gigahertz.
That's 4 more cores and what, 7 more gigahertz for this
0.7
same
yeah,
price.
0.7 gigahertz higher at the same price. Yes.
And you're getting more cores, more threads, and better speed.
Yeah.
Ryzen killed itself.
That's
No,
that's 7 nanometer right there, though.
As much as that sounds horrible, it's true. Ryzen killed off its old counterparts because you can't beat these prices.
Well, that's whenever a new generation comes out, that's what happens, anyways.
That's the thing that they came out with 4 generations. Ryzen 3 chips are dead for the price wise. You can a Ryzen 3 1200 isn't worth it. You can get the same. It has what, 4 cores? The Ryzen 3 3300 has 6.
I see what you mean. I see what you're trying to say. I think what Allied's trying to get at is he means like if you already have like an earlier Ryzen chip, like Intel every generation, if you have like the 7700K and then the 8700K it comes out, like yeah, it's 2 more cores, but like who really cares? Who really gives a shit, Like you'd probably still keep your 7700K.
Yeah, there's no point upgrading at that point.
Of an upgrade. But like it's so much faster, and also
the more cores.
So many more cores. Like I have the 2700X, and I'm gonna upgrade to the 3700X as soon as I can.
I have the 1900X, and I'll talk about what I'm gonna upgrade to after we get to the Ryzen 3800X. I'm gonna go with the first one here.
Yeah, you get to that.
So, first off, let's just say the Ryzen 9. I love the way that sounds. The Ryzen 9.
That just kind of roll off your tongue in the way that only high-end processors can do.
Yeah, you can't really, like, Threadripper sounded badass, but once you look at the performance stats and etc., you're like, okay, this isn't for gaming. But now let's start with the Ryzen. It can be, but no one really used it for gaming. But this here, you can do whatever you want to. The Ryzen 9 series, you could do whatever you wanted to do to this series. The Ryzen 9 3800X. 16 cores, 32 threads.
That's
32.
That's Threadripper right there. That's Threadripper.
That is their best Threadripper here. Real quick, look up the what was it? The 1950X.
Yeah, the 1950X. I got it right here. So 1950X, 16 cores, 32 threads, same as that, but
what's the base clock?
180 watt TDP, and this is 125, and then base clock 3.4 gigahertz.
Their base clock is 3.9. Okay, the base clock is 0.1 gigahertz behind.
We keep saying, we've said this all like almost every time, but guys, this is so much faster.
The base clock is better.
We're repeating ourselves because of how insane this is.
It's because it's true too, though, for almost every series.
But yeah, this is insane.
And then the boost clock is 0.7 better. 0.7 for $450.
Insane. It is insane. And keep in mind, right now, the 1950X is $570.
Well, this is $450.
You probably wouldn't buy a 1950X because the 2950X or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, true. The 2950X.
Actually, no, never mind. Because the 2950X is $900.
Yeah. So as I said here, Ryzen 3000 series killed off the Threadripper. I just want to put this out here. I bought a Threadripper when everyone was like creaming over them. In all reality, I'm probably gonna buy me the Ryzen 3000 series and replace and use my Threadripper as a streaming PC.
Which,
no one would ever do that.
If you can afford that, then why not?
Well,
but let's move on to the 3850X though, here, because that's when it gets even.
This here is the flagship.
This is the cream of the crop. This is like insanity. Like I know I've said this a bunch, but this is insane.
This is why I'm here.
This is what I love about PC gaming and shit. When I see a part that looks like this, I just like, oh my god, this is
can't beat it.
Awesome. 16 cores, 32 threads, just like the 3800X.
Yeah. That's casual.
Just casual 16 cores.
Just casual 16.
And then 4.3 gigahertz base clock.
Base clock. That is better.
5.1 boost, dude.
Hold on. Real quick.
5.1 boost.
The Ryzen 3850X has a higher base clock than all of the Ryzen 3 3300 boost clock. is on par or higher.
And no, dude, the 2700X has a boost clock of 4.3.
Best Ryzen 7 chip, which is better than the Ryzen 5 series and the Ryzen 3 series, its boost clock is the Ryzen 9's base clock. So if you boost this...
That's last gen, like literally.
Yeah, that is just last year. That was last year.
Yeah, and what? So 1 year ago, you got 4.3 gigahertz boost,
and you would cream.
Yeah, no, and that was like, damn, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now you get 4.3 gigahertz base on a fucking 16 core chip, dude. So 16 double the cores and a 5. Yeah.
I haven't even said that yet. It's double the cores for the base clock of that.
Yeah, of the 2700's boost.
Okay, so now that we've got all this excitement out of the way, let's talk about what do you need?
Yeah, like what do you need? Is what we mean by that is like you have all these parts, you know, all these processors. But like what would you use them for? Like you don't really need to have like a fucking 16 core chip if you're just gonna be playing games all day.
If you're gonna play GTA 5 and watch Fortnite videos and masturbate on it, there's you don't need 16 cores for that. You need at the most the Ryzen 3 3300X.
Yeah, so we're gonna go and talk about all this stuff, and then I'm gonna like just completely negate it all. But for now, we're just gonna say like realistically, what you would. Yeah, like which chip you would buy.
For the average gamer at home that's not going to be encoding anything. Like right now, the reason I bought a Threadripper is because I'm going to be encoding because I'm streaming and gaming. Which is, by the way, check that out down below. Easy self-advertisement.
Let's stop shilling and move on with this.
So 6 cores, 12 threads. You could probably do some low-tier streaming, like probably 480p, and still get some good frames. Like 60 FPS.
You know, you could realistically like 6 cores, 12 threads, like the.
You could realistically stream.
You could realistically stream. You could realistically edit videos, and you wouldn't have much slowdown. Like that's a pretty good chip right there. That's 20.
But you wouldn't be able to high tier stream or encode it incredibly quickly. But it is possible.
Yeah, it is. It is realistic. You know, that's a damn good chip right there. 6 cores, 12 threads. Like
that would probably be for the average gamer.
That's a damn good. That's a damn good processor.
But that was probably just for gaming, in my opinion. Like if you're just going to be gaming, I would go for that.
I had the 1500X and I streamed fairly well on that. So this chip definitely could.
Well, let's say then low end, like low end streaming.
The thing is, we have to look at what our standards are. You know, like
true.
So you could stream at 720p and play games with the 3300X. It wouldn't be the best of both worlds, but you could do it, you know?
Yeah, it would be strain, nonetheless. Especially with the... I nearly just said low boost clock. I feel like a god now saying all these. But in reality, the 4.3, right now, since none of this is out, is a really high boost clock. Like, that's a higher boost clock than my 1900X is.
Yeah.
You know, you're probably right. Including the ICP of this, you could actually do that pretty smoothly.
Yeah, like you could stream at 720p and play games, and you wouldn't, and like I said earlier, it would be the best of both worlds. But you could do it.
It's definitely not 144 frames.
You wouldn't be like, man, my 100 FPS is too low, you know?
Yeah,
like,
you wouldn't probably have 100 FPS. You'd probably be a 60 FPS gaming. Yeah.
You'd be happy, you know, especially like if you adjust settings and stuff, you'd be fine with the 3300X. So 6 cores, 12 threads, that's damn good.
The Ryzen 3 is going to be the low end, starting out gaming, in my opinion, series.
So like our standards today though, like I would be like, I would like if my friend was getting into gaming and he wanted to not spend a whole bunch of money. I would tell him to get like a Ryzen 3. And this fucking Ryzen 3 3300X right here.
I would definitely suggest that.
Like, if you're getting into gaming,
without a doubt,
fucking good.
For the price point and what it is, without a doubt. Now let's move to
that's
the
insane.
3600 series. Let's say
like the
let's say,
3600.
okay,
Yes.
let's do a PC price list. I say the 3300 series is probably around a $500 to $600 PC.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now I say
The
this is
3600
probably
that's
800.
like 800, 900.
800.
About. I think 800 is realistic though. Like that's the
Yeah.
most realistic.
So
So like with the Ryzen 5 right here though, you could easily edit videos like
easily, without a
quickly,
doubt.
no, I mean when I mean edit videos, I mean
yeah,
like
I have
like that like
equivalent to
the
the
pinnacle
3600
of
right
editing,
now.
of editing videos right there. Like
I have
with
the
either of
equivalent.
the 3600 chips, like 3600.
I have
or
the base
3600X.
3600. I have the base 3600 chip right now.
Yeah, you actually we do have
Yeah,
that.
and
Me and Ally
me
both have
streaming
the
and gaming
3600
off of it,
basically.
I'm getting 100 plus frames while streaming 720p 60 FPS. So, and I encode videos. So what's getting encoded on is a Threadripper right here.
Phone's buzzing, sorry.
Ah, so good. This is
I gotta mute.
this is all good here. So the Ryzen 5 3600, that right there was the Threadripper. So
Yeah.
I think when it comes down to it, the 3600 is probably the best choice.
Yeah, either the 3600 or the 3600X. I imagine that you could overclock the 3600 past the 3600X if you really wanted to, but then again, you could also overclock the 3600X. And generally,
Yeah.
you'll get better results on an X class chip than you will on a non-X class.
So if you had
That
the
being
extra
said,
money,
like you could edit videos extremely quickly, like no slowdown on the Ryzen 5 tier chips, and then you could stream like while playing your games on 1080p high, like
yeah,
and not really notice any slowdowns or performance dips at all. And
because
that's
it's just a
the
good
Ryzen
chip.
5s. Yeah, this is what the Ryzen 7s were, and the
Let's say
low-class
it's like
Threadrippers.
at $850 to $9,000, $900, $850, $900. I would, without a doubt, suggest my friend the Ryzen 5
Yeah,
3600X.
3600X.
Because for the
That's-
performance and price, that's $330.
That's such an like the 3600X.
It's
That's
just
such an
amazing.
exciting chip because
It
that's
really is.
8 cores, 16 threads at 4.8.
Dude.
That's sick. That's awesome.
It really is.
And then we can move on to the
Ryzen,
the Ryzen
7.
7s. So when I see the 12 cores, I immediately just like that's a Threadripper right there.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a
that could do
mid-tier Threadripper. That's probably
That could
you
do
could probably stream 1080p without any
at
handles.
60 FPS and play games at the same
Yeah,
time.
I
on,
would
like
probably be able to get 100 plus frames with that.
no, you could stream at 100 frames with that.
Dude, and you
No, and
wouldn't
I
be
don't
able.
mean I don't mean your game running at 100. I mean
Yeah, you mean streaming.
at 100.
Yeah, and I doubt you'd
Like-
be able to tell any humongous difference.
Yeah, like with the Ryzen 7 3700X, you could play a game at 4K and stream it at 1080p 60.
In all reality,
At like
the
fast.
3700 shouldn't be there.
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
In my opinion, the 3700 shouldn't be there, and the reason is, instead of getting that super fast SSD, you could save that $30 and get the 3700X, and you would be able to get a better performance for $30.
Well, they have to complete the lineup. They need
They
a
need a-
non-X and an X. But like,
yeah, but do you see what I mean? There for $30, look at the performance difference.
yeah, if I was
$30,
because like when you're spending about $300 on a CPU, $30 doesn't make a whole but like
yeah.
that's not a
At
super
that
big
point,
difference.
this is probably $1,000, $1,200 PC. That $30 shouldn't really be that big unless you're going for
Yeah.
like an RGB rig, which you really at that point
unless you need that $30.
unless you need that
Some people
RGB.
out there might. Some people
Yeah.
out there might.
Which,
But
if there
I would
is, there's
just-
nothing
at that
against you.
point, I'd go for the 3700X just because the 5 gigahertz. Like
Yeah,
that's,
that
that's
performance.
appealing. That's very appealing.
Yeah, for the
Um,
performance and price.
But yeah, so we're sucking the 3700's dick so much because of how insanely good of a chip it is. That's like you have 8 cores for streaming and then you have 4 cores for gaming, which most games utilize
Yeah.
like about 4 cores anyways. Like 4 to 6 usually.
And
Which-
that 8 cores,
there-
that
there
would
you
just be
go.
amazing.
Like there you go. That's just
Yeah.
perfect right there. That's
And-
absolutely the best. Like oh my god, that's so wonderful. And then they hit you
With the
another
Ryzen
fucking
9.
time the Ryzen 9.
16 cores.
Yeah, so the 16 cores right there. That's on
This is
that's your consumer
$1,500.
chip.
This is probably $1,500 to $1,700. Maybe even $2,000 depending on how you want to do it.
Oh yeah, if I was gonna build a $2,000 rig, I'd go for a Ryzen 9. But
Yeah.
in today's GPU climate, when you have to spend $1,000 on a 2080 Ti, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably buy a fucking 3700X.
At this point, we'll talk about that soon after, but the 3800X, this is going to be your high-end bragging rights PC. You don't need this.
Yeah, no one
needs this.
No one needs a Ryzen 9. But if you have the biggest fucking testicles out of everyone you know, and you want everyone
and you
to
have the
know
money,
that
and you have the money to burn.
Yeah, and you also have the money that you can just light on fire.
That's my rent there.
I would spend the extra $200.
The price right there is my rent.
3850. You know,
the
price is insanely high, but if you have the money for it,
well, I spent $500 on my 1900X.
Yeah.
So if I would have waited a year, and I would have went with something else and just saved the money, I would have a 5 point. I'm probably not gonna boost it to 5.1. I'll probably leave it at 5 gigahertz. But I would have a 16 thread.
That's the default boost. So
yeah,
you probably shouldn't change it. But like it's gonna boost to 5.1 gigahertz. You know, like that's
true.
Like that's an insanely good chip. You know.
But yeah,
I just super like.
If I had to choose a CPU,
I'm pretty happy with all that.
If I had to choose a CPU out of all this to game on and stream on, it would have to be the Ryzen 7 3700X.
Yeah, and then if you have the money, why not go for the Ryzen 9? And then this is when I go to the whole point of like of just basically like none of this really means anything, because if you can afford one of these chips, then you're probably gonna buy it, you know, like with just like if you are looking for a processor, like, and you can afford the Ryzen 9, you're gonna buy the Ryzen 9.
Yeah.
If you can afford the Ryzen 5, then you're gonna buy the Ryzen 5. You know, people buy stuff on their ability to afford it.
Not on the performance.
They don't think about like, oh, well, I don't really need the extra 4 cores for the Ryzen 9, but I can afford it in my build, like in my spending layout. So I'll just do it, you know? That's not really how it works. People usually will go for just, like, they'll buy it if they can afford it, you know?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, at this point here, I think we really just kind of set the prices for the Ryzen 300, $500 to $600, for the Ryzen 3300, for the 3600, probably $700 to $800. 3600, and then the Ryzen 7 3700s are probably $1,000, $1,200, or the Ryzen 3000 is probably more around $1,500 plus.
Yeah, obviously just estimations. Like, you know, you can build a computer with whatever parts you want in it. That's the whole part of PC gaming. Do whatever the fuck you want.
Just make sure it works, right?
Yeah, just make sure it fucking works. So, you want to move on?
Let's go ahead and move on about what they also talked about here. Now, I don't know really how to start this, because there is no good way just to be like, oh, look at this. Because it's something that it's just kind of hard to explain. It's the AMD Radeon 7. It's a pretty crazy GPU for the price, but it's also pretty bad for the price, in my opinion.
So the thing is, like, my opinion on the Radeon 7, Vega 7, is it is basically just it is basically just AMD's, like, they want to stay competitive, and they just brought everyone together in a huddle, and they were like, okay, boys,
how are we gonna do it?
The high end, you know, how are we gonna do this? And then they released the Vega 7, and it beats the 2080. Yeah. For like the same price, a little bit less, especially because even if you go on PC Part Picker right here, and you search for 2080, then like I'm looking through the list right here, and almost there's one listing right here, except that you can't buy it, and there's
Probably
one
'cause it's sold
listing
out.
right here that you can't buy it because it's sold out. Yeah, I see two that are $6.99.
Okay.
And all the other ones are at least $750. And now this Vega 7 beats the 2080, and it is the same price, which that's pretty sick, you know? Like, they did a good job. It's got 16 gigs of high bandwidth memory,
Which is really good.
which is insane, especially because some games in 4K will use more than 8 gigs of VRAM.
Yeah. I do want to point that out. When it comes to this type of gaming, I really realized that AMD is better for 4K and 2K gaming because those extra cores are needed for 4K.
At higher resolutions, that can be more important.
And also now with the Radeon's extra bandwidth, I think what AMD is doing is smart because they're thinking about the future. I've looked at reviews of this and they've all said that's stupid. They have a terabyte of, what was it, memory transfer or something along those lines?
Yeah, memory bandwidth. Terabyte of memory bandwidth.
And the reason is because they're thinking about 1080p gaming.
Yeah,
That's not the future.
At 4K, which is the future of gaming. 4K is what everyone, like, that's what we're going to get
2K,
to.
4K.
4K.
Because 1080p was good, but now it's becoming obsolete.
I game at 1080p, but only because I just don't have a 1440p monitor to play at.
I would love a
1440p.
1440p.
You know, I have a 1080 Ti. I can play at 1440p plus like 100 plus FPS easily.
Yeah.
On every game. You know, I just don't have a 1440p monitor. Like,
but the
1080p
Radeon
is for like the more budget end, and like if you want to play at 1080p, you can play at whatever resolution you want. You know, I don't care.
Yeah.
But
you're not gonna be able to
4K
get that.
And 1440p is what the whole industry is moving towards. You know, that's where we're going.
My 970 can push 100 frames plus on a 1080p. I put a 1440p monitor on there. It's gonna try its damnedest, but it's probably gonna get 80 to 70 frames.
Yeah, probably closer to 60 actually.
Yeah, and then 4K, I'll probably be lucky to get 30.
You'll be lucky to get 20, but
yeah. So that's what I mean.
So yeah, like the
this
industry,
card
like
isn't for 1080p. It's
like
not
this card is
1080p
for
gaming.
4K and, yeah, you know, like this card is obviously for 4K. You know, that's what it's for. It's trying to compete.
And
with the 2080
no one's
and
talked
Ti.
about that yet, and it upsets me.
I think Linus is the only person who actually talked about like how, like, he didn't even mention 1080p because why the fuck would you game at 1080p?
Because it's obsolete now. No one's trying.
You can do that, but that wouldn't be the best use of it. You know,
you would
it's
be
meant for
bottlenecking
4K.
it with your monitor. At that point, you're bottlenecking the card with your monitor. That's how good technology is getting. Is to where monitors are bottlenecking your CPU and GPU. And that's that's insane. Last year, your computer, it didn't even give a fuck what your monitor was. You just wanted to be able to play.
I do have one thing to say though. The only card on PC Part Picker that I could buy that was like the correct price, like the $6.99, that wasn't sold out, is a blower style card.
And for those who don't know, blower style cards are horrible.
Run hot, basically.
Yeah,
they're not horrible, but they run hot.
You want to talk about the new architecture too for the Ryzen?
Oh yeah, the 7 nanometer architecture.
Yeah, and how with the fans, apparently it's supposed to run like super amazingly cool now.
Yeah, well, because the whole point of smaller nodes, basically, the whole point of that is that it makes the cards more power efficient, so they can consume less energy and have the same performance or better performance as the old generations. Like the Vega 7, it'll consume less power for the same performance than a 2080. And it does.
I want the Radeon so badly, but let's talk about what they're planning on coming out with. They did say they're going to come out with new GPUs in the future of this year.
Navi was was the whole thing. Yeah.
No, I'm not
Adored
good with
TV did
Navi.
leak. Did
So this is the AMD Radeon's leaked once again from who is it again?
Adored TV.
Adored. So we assuming this is 100% correct, but we don't know for sure.
Yes. Obviously, this is like it's all leaked stuff, so
It could change.
We don't know 100% if it's true. If this is true, then it could change. But this is what was leaked from Adored TV. So as you can see, here's the rumored lineup of Navi. So they have the base 3060. I think that's where we're gonna start.
Yeah.
As you can see, it's all rumored to use GDDR6, which is cheaper than AMD's HBM2 memory that they used for the Vega 7. True. The base 3060, $130, 4 gigabytes of GDDR6 with a 75-watt TDP.
That will outperform my 970.
Low. Yeah, of course it will.
That's good. Well, I'm talking about for the price range too, though. Like you can buy 970s new for like 200 plus. You can get 1060s for probably 150, give or take, right now.
Yeah, which like
so this is gonna outperform it
for used cards, but
yeah, for the 1060, it's gonna be
equivalent to the 580, which 580 is a pretty good card. It's depending on who you ask, it's faster, slightly slower than a 1060.
So yeah, it's gonna be a good competitor in my opinion.
Yeah, it's gonna compete pretty well, especially since it's only $130.
Well, see, they've really just cut the pricing down. It's insane.
Yes, that's insanely cheap. I guess with modern standards, it's insanely cheap. Cards used to be that expensive, but they aren't anymore.
Yeah.
Then we move to the RX 3070, which is $200. It has 8 gigabytes of GDDR6.
Dude, that is
makes
insane.
Sense because it is apparently equivalent to the 2060 or the 1070, which those are pretty
those are
cards for 1440p.
You can get them like $500 right now.
If it is equivalent with those cards, if it is actually equal to the Vega 56, equivalent to those cards,
it's $300 cheaper. That's not even a competition. At that point, you need to get an AMD card.
Yeah.
And as long as it doesn't run hot and throttles.
Yeah. Again, we won't know exactly how it performs until it comes out. But 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 is good for a card that would play 1440p games.
Once again, it's going to run
like the 1070
with
cards.
AMD cards.
And the 2060 would. Like those cards were already basically the 1440p sweet spot anyways. And if this card is $200 and it is competing with those two cards very well, then that's just going to be like
that's just amazing.
Big giant fist straight up NVIDIA's ass, basically.
It really will be. Like right now, NVIDIA and Intel are probably scared shitless. I just want to point that out.
If I saw this, if this is what releases, what we've covered so far, if this is what releases, then I would shit my pants if I was Intel and NVIDIA.
Because they're going to start losing people buying them. Their stocks will start going down. They'll have to lower their prices. And by then, they'll be losing money because not only are they losing customers, they're also losing pricing.
Yeah.
So it's just, like, that could honestly crash their market.
Yeah, I used to buy Intel, but I don't anymore. And I currently have an NVIDIA card. I have a 1080 Ti, like I said.
970?
If this is how this is going to end up, that might change. I might have to go full red.
Honest to God, and also full red works better together. So,
Oh, yeah.
If this is true, I'm probably going to buy a low-end Ryzen 3 3300 for streaming, buy a high-end 3700X for gaming, and probably use an AMD Radeon RX 3080 or Ryzen or Radeon 7 to game with. Because right now, the Radeon RX 3080, 8 gigabytes of GDDR6, same as the previous one, but it's 150 watts, so I'm assuming...
Which is, I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, is less than the 2070.
Yeah. So that means I'm assuming it's going to be running quicker and better than the 2070 and the 1080. And the 1080 Ti, like he said earlier, could easily run 1440p. So
yeah, like that's
if this card
1080 Ti ran 4K at 60 FPS, and it ran 1440p at like 100 plus. And this card, if it like does end up being equivalent to the or competing with the 2070 and the 1080, then we're looking at like a very very compelling card, you know, a card
for
that
250
could easily run 1440p at
250
high settings at good, like well above 60, you know, looking up like 100, about 100 plus, you know, that range.
And this is for $250 too. Can we just point that
Yes.
out? Right now, a 1080 Ti is 1,000 plus. That is 1/4 the price
Which
for
we
the
can't really
same
use 10
performance.
series. We can't really use 10 series pricing because they don't manufacture 10 series anymore, so we'd have to go on the new standard, which
is the 2070s and the 2080s.
Yeah, so but those cards are already like they're way overpriced.
Yeah, they're around 800. So even then, the pricing is still 1/3 at that point
Yeah.
for the same thing.
Like,
Radeon
the
has
2070.
took the market.
Yeah, the 2070, and that's if this does release, like with the leaks like being correct.
Yeah.
The 2070, which is what this card competes against. The 2070 is $500 and up.
I think 2019 is going to be AMD's year.
I would have to agree with you if all these leaks turn out to be true, which, you know, like, I'm not saying that they will, I'm not saying that they won't, but if they do,
2019.
then AMD will have both the blue team and the green team by the balls.
And I'm going to be broke. Like, okay, just so y'all know,
thing is,
I'm returning stuff right now because I wanted extra money in my pocket, though I could just buy stuff that I wanted. No. I'm saving this because right now, with the money that I have in my pocket, I can buy the AMD Radeon RX 250, and then I'll have a full red PC. But at that point, my CPU is obsolete. I need the new Ryzen 7 3700X, and I'll just use a Threadripper for
You
streaming.
have a Threadripper, but like I see what you mean.
Yeah, like for the pricing,
this is the kind of stuff that's like there's such compelling parts here, dude.
yeah. Well, see, that's the thing though. All I need to do is I have a motherboard for the Threadripper. I have a power supply already. All I need to do is get me a new motherboard and the CPU, and then I'll have a whole new PC because I can easily buy me more RAM and stick it with the Threadripper, and then I'll have a Ryzen 7 PC.
Okay, let me say something real quick though. If these new parts up to the Ryzen 3, Ryzen 5, and Ryzen 7 do turn out to be compatible with AM4, then I'm gonna shit my pants just a little bit because those are some damn good parts.
Yeah, and he already has an AM4
compatible
board.
with what I have. Yeah, I already have an AM4 motherboard. I have I have an X470 motherboard from Gigabyte, and I can just flash this with like the latest BIOS for the new CPU, and then plop in a 3700X.
And then you'll be gaming like a god.
Yeah, I'll be gaming like a god at that point. That's just what.
So I think we should just leave it at like that then. Guys,
Yeah.
2019 is AMD's year. Hopefully by the end of 2019, we're going to be gaming like gods.
We all will. Even if you can only spend $130 on a CPU, you'll be gaming like a god.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
It's crazy. The new budget PCs aren't really budget anymore. Like, they're better than
$100 on them, but that doesn't mean that
doesn't mean they're bad anymore. It means they can.
Yeah.
Okay, remember how we were talking about the other CPU? For a $500 rig, it's $130 for the AMD Radeon 3060. $130 for the CPU. That's $260 right there.
Yes, that is $260.
That is a crazy price for something that's going to outperform an i5 and something that's going to outperform a 1060.
Yeah.
That's not a budget PC would be an i3 and like a 1050. No, This is a i5, 1060, maybe even a 1060 Ti if you overclock it.
So
This is
1060 Ti doesn't exist, but I know.
well, I mean, if you overclock the RX, it's the equivalent of what it would be.
So yeah. So this whole lineup is really exciting for budget gamers.
I think it's gonna fuck over console.
It's really exciting for mid-range. It's really exciting for the high-end CPU side.
Definitely.
And we've already seen Vega 7, which is really exciting for the high-end.
Yes, it really is. And
so
I feel bad for console.
If all these leaks turn out to be real and true, then goddamn, I might just go red.
Yeah, console is going to take a dive because think about it. What's the point of buying a $500 Xbox 2080 or whatever the hell they're going to call them nowadays? But who's going to buy that when you can buy something for the same price that's going to outperform it tenfold?
You are correct, and I think with that statement, it might be a good place to leave off.
Yeah, I think that might be the next video's topic. Tell me what y'all think about that. Us talking about how much this is going to kill consoles. If y'all like that idea, comment down below. If not, okay.
Also make sure to leave your idea for a name in the comments section. We would love to read them.
Yeah, we call it Allied's Big Tip. I mean, whatever you want to call it.
So with that, I hope you guys all enjoyed watching. We will see you next week
in the next video.
The next episode.
Bye-bye.